The longer I look at this painting, the more I feel an extreme sense of sadness creeping up on me. It initially appears to be comical though, a monkey dressed in a jester's costume, sitting on a stone ledge. But something about the way it sits there, the way it stares into the distance, suggests that this is not a funny painting at all. Why exactly does a painting of a monkey in a costume make us feel so sad? This painting is titled For What Was I Created, and it was painted in 1886 by an American artist named William Holbrook Beard. Now, that title alone should tell us something. This definitely isn't a painting about entertainment, at least not in the literal sense. Could it be a painting about purpose, about meaning, about the question that every living thing might ask if it could speak? Before we can answer these questions, we need to meet the painter and answer another question. Why did he spend most of his career painting anthropomorphic animals? William Holbrook Beard was born in 1824 in Painesville, Ohio. He learned to paint from his older brother James, and in the beginning, both brothers worked as portrait painters, traveling from town to town looking for commissions. It wasn't a glamorous life. Portrait painting was competitive, and Beard struggled to make a name for himself. In the 1850s, he saved enough money to travel to Europe, where he studied in Düsseldorf alongside artists like Albert Bierstadt and Worthington Whitridge. When he returned to America, he knew exactly where to go. He settled in New York City and opened a studio in the famous 10th Street Studio building. This was where many of the most important American artists of the era were, including Winslow Homer and William Merritt Chase. But Beard wasn't interested in painting landscapes or society portraits. He had found a different subject: animals. And not just any animals. Animals dressed in human clothing, engaging in human activities, and most importantly, expressing human emotions. His paintings showed bears dancing in circles, foxes scheming like politicians, and monkeys debating philosophical concepts. To a modern viewer, these might seem like simple cartoons, but in the 19th century, they were something far more subversive. In 1859, Charles Darwin published On the Origin of Species, and suddenly the relationship between humans and animals was the most controversial topic in the Western world. Were we really so different from the beasts? Did animals have souls? Could they feel what we feel? Beard believed they could. He once wrote that animals possess the same emotions as humans, the same capacity for joy, fear, and suffering. His paintings can be described as satires, yes, but they were also philosophical statements. By dressing animals in human clothes, he forced viewers to ask an uncomfortable question. If we laugh at them, are we also laughing at ourselves? That's a rather interesting way to prove your point, don't you think? Now, most of Beard's animal paintings are humorous, but For What Was I Created is different. There's no humor here at all, and after realizing this, we can't help but feel that this is an extremely profound painting. In the center sits a small monkey, probably a capuchin, the kind that was commonly used by organ grinders in the 19th century. The monkey wears a jester's costume, bright yellow and red, with the traditional motley pattern of a court fool. These costumes were designed to be eye-catching, to draw attention, and ultimately make people laugh. But this monkey isn't performing. It's sitting completely still on a stone ledge, staring out at something we cannot see. Its posture is slumped, defeated. Its hands rest in its lap, doing nothing. And its face, if you look closely, shows an expression that can only be described as profound sadness. At the monkey's feet, there's a small dog barking upward at its companion that squeezes its tail. On the ground beside them lies a cane and what appears to be a helmet or hat, props from a performance that has apparently ended. Behind them stretches a dense green forest, a natural world that the monkey can see but cannot return to. This is the first layer of the painting's tragedy. The monkey is dressed for a world it was never meant to inhabit. It was taken from the forest, put in a costume, and trained to entertain humans. And now, in this quiet moment between performances, it sits alone with a question it cannot answer. For what was I created? Now, let's think about what organ grinder monkeys actually were. In the 19th century, these animals were a common sight on the streets of major cities, especially in New York, where Beard lived and worked. Organ grinders were street musicians who played portable barrel organs, and they often used small monkeys to attract crowds and collect coins. The monkeys were dressed in little costumes, sometimes as soldiers, sometimes as jesters, and they were trained to perform tricks. To the crowds, they were charming, especially to children who adored these little creatures. But behind the entertainment was a darker reality. These monkeys were captured from the wild, often as infants. Their mothers, who fought back with all their power, were frequently killed in the process. They were then shipped across oceans, trained through repetition and sometimes punishment, and forced to spend their lives performing for strangers. When they grew too old or too sick to work, they were often abandoned or even killed. Beard knew all of this. He lived in the same city where these monkeys performed and often saw them on the streets. And in this painting, he asks us to see them differently. Definitely not as a form of entertainment. Beard tells us that these are prisoners, not clowns. The jester's costume takes on a different meaning when you understand this context. In medieval courts, jesters were often people who had no other place in society. They were outsiders, sometimes disabled, sometimes simply poor, who survived by making others laugh. The costume wasn't a symbol of joy, it was a uniform, comparable to the ones worn by modern-day prisoners. By dressing the monkey as a jester, Beard draws a direct parallel between human and animal exploitation. Both are forced to perform, both are stripped of their dignity. And most importantly, both are asked to entertain while their own suffering goes unnoticed. And if this wasn't bad enough, there's yet another layer to this painting that makes it even more devastating. Look at the forest in the background. It's lush and green, full of the kind of trees where this monkey might once have lived. Freedom is right there, visible, reachable, but the monkey doesn't move toward it. It just sits there, staring. Why? When we look at this painting long enough, we want to scream at the monkey. Run, you're not shackled, get up and jump toward the nearest tree. The tragedy is that it no longer knows how to be wild. The costume has become its cage, one without bars. Another possibility is that it has been broken so completely that it no longer believes escape is possible. This is what makes this painting so unbearably sad. The monkey isn't being physically restrained. The tragedy is internal. It has forgotten what it was before the costume. And now it sits there, asking itself a rhetorical question. For what was I created? Was I created to be this, a thing in a costume, performing for coins? Or was I created for something else, something I can no longer remember? Now let's take this even a step further. When the American artist painted this work in 1886, America was in the middle of the Gilded Age. It was an era of both extreme wealth and extreme poverty. Factory workers were performing hard labor in dangerous conditions, while industrialists built mansions. Many people spent their entire lives doing work they hated, in jobs that gave them no meaning, wearing uniforms that marked them as servants of a system they didn't choose. For what was I created? It's a question every worker might ask themselves at any time in history. Anyone trapped in a life that feels like a performance for someone else's benefit. And here's the fascinating part of most of Beard's paintings. Although he painted animals, he was always really painting humans. And in this painting, he created something that transcends its subject entirely. It's not just about a monkey, it's about anyone who has ever felt like their life has been reduced to a costume and a role. But there's one element in this painting that I haven't discussed yet: the barking dog at the monkey's feet. Dogs were often used alongside monkeys in street performances. They were partners in entertainment. But in this painting, the dog seems agitated, perhaps trying to get the monkey's attention, perhaps even urging it to perform. The monkey grabs its tail but doesn't respond otherwise. It has withdrawn into itself, contemplating that terrible question. The barking dog highlights that the monkey resides in a state of utter indifference to what it has become. That's ultimately why this painting is so profoundly sad. William Holbrook Beard died in 1900, just 14 years after completing this painting. Although he completed dozens of paintings that made people laugh, I find myself asking a different question. I wonder if this painting meant something different to him. Was it a reflection of his own existential questions? After decades of painting animals and costumes, did he finally want to show us what was underneath? Do you agree that this might be the saddest painting you've ever seen? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel and don't forget to turn on notifications to get updates on more similar videos.